Welcome back. We're wrapping up our discussion on the U.S. election and what we can anticipate. And joining me again is Peter Roff. Peter, just before we went to commercial break, we were discussing, well, fact checking, but also some of the statements made by each candidate. In this particular case, Kamala Harris mentioning that, well, she in 2019, she would ban fracking. Now she said she would not ban fracking. But there are other ways to handicap fracking where it's not like an outright ban. And you were kind of walking us through that.
And that's what we were getting at before we went to break. And so she won't ban fracking, but her EPA will issue regs that will make it more expensive to produce energy by fracking than that energy can be sold for. So nobody will want to do it. And then she'll have her Justice Department settle lawsuits filed by environmental radicals seeking to ban fracking in ways that favor a reduction or elimination in fracking. So there won't be a law, there won't be a regulation that anybody can point to and say that's a fracking ban, but effectively, de facto, fracking is banned because of Harris administration policies. That's a game that they play constantly in Washington that the progressives do that never gets fact checked.
I think that's important for our viewers to get a handle on, because we always want to know, is this politician telling us the truth? Are we being spun? What's being spun? And this is an interesting observation that I think our viewers need to really get a handle on. Switching gears to Trump. So one thing that seemed to come out of the debate that a lot of people were demanding fact checking for was this allegation that migrants were eating household pets and yard pets in Springfield, Ohio. What is this all about?
Good question. It has been reported on the internet. And again, this is one of the things that I think separates real journalism from citizen journalism, is that in our world, we have editors and producers who stop and say, wait a second, have we checked this? Do we know this for sure? But there are allegations that in different parts of Ohio where refugees have been settled by the Biden-Harris administration, that animals are being picked up by refugees and eaten. Now, there seems to be some small kernel of truth here somewhere involving ducks and geese being taken from public parks. But somebody put it on the internet that it was dogs and cats taken out of people's yards. And while the story hasn't been confirmed, it also hasn't been knocked down to everyone's satisfaction. Having the city manager simply say, oh, that's not happening, isn't quite the same thing as knocking down the story. Now, it's hard to prove a negative, and I will acknowledge that. But it is one of the things that everybody's talking about, and it is symptomatic of the chaos that has occurred in America because of the Biden-Harris administration's inability to control our southern border. And so, have rail cars been raided in rail yards and their contents stolen and strewn out among the rail yards? Yes, absolutely. Were people streaming over the border in numbers that didn't allow them to be counted or processed? Yes. So of course, this emphasizes the immigration problem, the illegal migration problem. And every pollster says that that's the number one issue on the mind of every American. If you ask them what they care about, rather than say, here's a list of 5 things, rank them 1 to 5 in importance.
Yeah, and I think that was the takeaway policy that featured most prominently in that debate. It was immigration and what's going on at the southern border. We only have 40 seconds left. Do you have a sense of where voter intention is if it comes down to these two candidates on November?
I think this election, more than any other, is about logistics rather than persuasion. This isn't about winning over independent voters. It isn't about, I've got the better message. It's who knows where their voters are and can get them to the polls. And the campaign with the better turnout operation, I think, is the one that's going to win. I don't see anything yet that's broken this race wide open on behalf of either candidate.
Okay, and with the 10 seconds we have left, will there be a vice presidential debate?
I suspect there will.
Okay, we'll have to have you back on to unpack that when the time comes. Peter, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Good to be with you.